Hi, I'm Chris Lee, and this is Virtually Speaking. Joining us today is Lieutenant Colonel Waldo Waldman, the Wingman, and a real Top Gun. He's the author of the New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller, Never Fly Solo, drawing from his experiences as a combat-decorated F-16 fighter pilot and as a businessman. Waldo earned numerous awards in the Air Force, including the Air Medal, the Aerial Achievement Award, the Air Force Commendation Medal, and the Meritorious Service Medal. Waldo is a Hall of Fame speaker who also earned an MBA, and as a businessman, he was named one of the top 40 under 40 business leaders in Atlanta by the Atlanta Business Journal. He's appeared on Fox News, Harvard Business Review, NBC, Inc. Magazine, Bloomberg, Businessweek, and on CNN, interviewed by Sanja Gupta. So please join me with Top Gun, Waldo Waldman. Well, hello, Waldo Waldman. Thank you for joining me here on Virtually Speaking, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Great to be here, Chris.
Thank you, sir. I'm so happy to have you. You are one of my favorites, and this is definitely something I've been looking forward to. And this is such great timing. The movie Top Gun is out, biggest opening in the history of Hollywood. I guess people are going back into the theaters, which is great.
Yeah.
And of course, 4th of July now around the corner. So who better to have than an actual Top Gun, an actual combat tested pilot of an F-16, an actual New York Times bestseller who is at the top of the game when it comes to speaking and with the former military background. But I guess once you're in the military, you're always in the military.
You
Is that
got
right?
it. Yeah, always. It never leaves your blood.
So did you see Top Gun? Did you see the movie?
Absolutely, with my wife and another couple and my 11-year-old in tow. It was awesome. We had such a great time. I loved it.
So did you like the original one as well? The
I
first?
like the original one. I was 18 years old when I saw it, Chris. Just finished basic training at the Air Force Academy, and
Wow.
watching that on TV and seeing the movie, I was with like 1,000 other cadets. We were all fired up and just ready to go, fly jets. And to have that I guess that beacon, that true north of where we wanted to be. Most of us went to the academy because we wanted to fly. I always had a dream of serving my country and flying fighters, and watching that was just great. And it was a good way to stay focused, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you see a reality of your future in front of you, I don't care if it's in Hollywood or at a air show,
Right.
it grounds you and gives you something to shoot for. So I think it was really special for me. Uh, I thought the first movie was a little more cheesy than the second, and there
Oh,
were some cheesy moments in the second one, but I felt it was great because it was just so fundamental on teamwork and courage and trust and resilience. And there were winners and there were losers, and it didn't matter, your background, the color of your skin, if you were female or male. Everybody
hmm.
was working together to accomplish the goal and take the fight to the enemy and win. And I just think America and the world needed that show,
Right.
that reinforcement of what makes our country so special.
The message is clear. America, maybe subconsciously or consciously, is thinking about togetherness. We are one. We are a nation. We have so much division between us politically and on so many other issues. And yet, I think there's this underlying knowledge, hopefully, that we're all humans and we're all
Yeah.
Americans, and we really need each other. And that's kind of the premise I know of your speech has been for many years. Is you're a wingman. You are never alone. You're never flying solo. That's the name of your New York Times bestseller. I think it was
Yeah.
also several other bestseller lists. But never fly solo. So obviously you see that in this movie. You see that when you see you speak. You talk about these themes. So what does never fly solo mean to you at this time in space in the world?
It ultimately means that when you're facing adversity or even have an opportunity in your life, in business or in your personal life, that you're not doing it alone, that you can always reach out to a wingman or a wingmam, ask for help. But even more important than that, to be the type of person that others could come to for help. When
Mm,
you look at your life, if you're in sales or business development or an entrepreneur, whatever it is that you're doing, when you build rapport with somebody and establish that trust, that connection, that heart, that integrity that is often commoditized in the world, you build up your reputation capital. And when people feel comfortable going to you for help, that is the start of a relationship. That is the start of uh, of true value in the world today. But I often think that many times folks may be reticent to take off their masks and ask others for help.
Hmm.
I think it takes a true leader, somebody of courage and confidence to say, you know what, I can't get there today.
Hmm.
I may not have the answer. I'm okay with being vulnerable and asking others for help. But as Elizabeth Dole said when she ran the Red Cross, I didn't wait for the rivers to flood before I built relationships.
Right.
So a lot of my speech is about how do you reinforce relationships with your peers, your coworkers, your vendor partners, all those men and women in your life, so that when the missiles do come, when
Hmm.
the adversity strikes, you can pick up the phone and say the three most important words in life, which are "I need help,"
Yeah. And
and others will be there for you.
even leaders are afraid to ask for help, and they have to ask for help too sometimes. I know the old adage, the man driving the family around in the car afraid to ask for directions, but
Yeah.
it's definitely something that is great to hear you say. And of course, nobody's fearless, and nobody accomplishes great things without a lot of failure and fear going into it. And I was surprised but not shocked to hear that even you were claustrophobic when you really started learning how and accomplishing flying those F-16s and similar planes. When did you figure that out, and how did you deal with that?
So 3 years into my 11-year flying career, I almost died in a scuba diving accident. It was the first time I'd ever been. I was using improper techniques, just messing up, and 35 feet under the water, my mask malfunctions. I inhaled a whole lungful of burning salt water,
Oh,
freaked out, had a panic attack, didn't know what one was up until that moment. And subsequently, for the next 8 years of my 11-year flying career, I had to deal with this phobia and fear and uncertainty. I would fly the jet and uh, I'd have these micro panic attacks. Instead of being 35 feet under the water, now I'm 35,000 feet in the air.
yeah.
And anybody who's seen the cockpit of an F-16, I'll show you one on the screen right there. Not a lot of movement allowed in that tiny cockpit. And
Wow.
so think about flying 7 hours at night in the weather on a combat mission in Iraq, and suddenly you start having a panic attack. So a lot of my story is about how I overcame that fear, stayed in the cockpit, built that resilience, which is so important in life. And I distracted myself from myself. That's kind of one of the
Yeah.
metaphors or analogies I say is it's about focusing on your team. When I was leading young men and women in combat who were scared, depending on me, my teammates, right, who were flying, scared of losing their life and becoming a POW, et cetera.
Hmm.
When you double down on the fact that you're needed, that someone's depending on you, and that you can make a difference for them, you distract yourself from your own fear and you become more present in life. So I think a great leader focuses on their team, understands that others are hurting, that are having some issues, and they encourage and they lift and they coach, they mentor and help others through the turbulent aspects of life. So that's a huge context or concept that I share in my programs. It's not just about being steely-eyed Hercules or Superman or Superwoman. It's about acknowledging the vulnerabilities and fears in others, doubling down on your responsibility to help them.
Hmm.
And like I said before, also being vulnerable and human enough to say, you know what, even though I'm your leader, I need to ask you for help. I need to reach out to my network and have others lift me up, because it often gets lonely at the top and we need others to inspire and get us on course too, because that's life and it's easy to get blown off course.
Yeah. And you're such a wonderful presence on the stage. You have so much charisma and passion. And I wonder if you, as a teammate of your fellow pilots and guys out there with you fighting, because you were fighting in combat, I know, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I wonder if, just because of your kind of uh, amazing personality that you have, you kind of must have become one of the leaders. You must have been chosen to do that, and everybody around you, I'm imagining, must have looked to you a lot for motivation, and a lot of them probably came to you and said, "I need help."
And I really appreciate you saying that, Chris, because it takes a special leader to have that. It didn't happen overnight for me. I was very intense. I'm a New Yorker. My background similar to yours. It took a while for me to uh, to humble myself and become more empathetic and compassionate. A lot of the stories that I share in my book and on the stages when I was rude, when I was uh, demanding instead of commanding, right? I have a saying there, be a commander, not a demander. I many times was a demander, and it took leaders,
Hmm.
my peers, my supervisors, my commanders to humble me and say, Waldo, you treated this person disrespectful. I chewed out, for example, I chewed out a young crew chief, a technician, for messing up something, used foul language, was disrespectful. And my commander got wind of it and he said, you're going to walk the flight line on a hot, sticky summer day for 12 hours like these kids do and see what they do to make sure that these weapon systems on your jet are working and that your cockpit's operating well and your engines functioning correctly. And because I was a cocky young guy, and it took a leader to have the courage to put me in my place and to get me out there and walk the flight line. So that connection with those unsung heroes is something important in our life that we need to do, to walk the flight line, to relate with our partners, to understand the diversity of our organizations, regardless of your sex, your background, your whatever, to realize the human behind the employee, and to get your fingers and hands dirty with knowing what they do for work and not taking them for granted. And that's a huge lesson that I learned in the military. And once again, I learned it. I've got battle damage and scars in my life because of mistakes that I made, and also because of great commanders who not only disciplined me when I needed it, but also got me an award, flight leader of the quarter, instructor pilot of the year. I became top of my class and the number one instructor pilot and flight lead that others want to fly with because I learned those lessons. I bounced back and said, you know what? Life's about uh, growth and learning. And that's what I want my audiences to learn as well. It's not where you start, it's where you end. And we're all on a journey.
Yeah, and at the ending of your speeches, I know that the clients are always raving. The audiences, are always there where you want them to be. They get it, and you definitely put a lot of great ideas into everybody's head that I think we forget and we often need to be reminded of. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and because there's a lot of great military speakers out there. I have an MBA. I've been in real world sales, technology sales, and mergers and acquisitions. I've been out there carving my success in sales before becoming a speaker. But I try to differentiate myself by speaking more about the heart and relationships, not just about the tactics of flying the
Right,
jets, right? How
right.
much can you do in an hour? I want to tap the heart and soul of the audience and inspire them in the humanity. And because being a Top Gun isn't just about doing the best. It's about doing your best to be the best and humbling yourself and getting up every day saying, how do I improve? How do I seek out others? What am I doing in my personal life to build the horsepower and my confidence, which may have nothing to do with work or business or flying
Mhm.
jets, but it may have to do with the people that I'm hanging out with, the garbage that's in my head, the habits, the rituals, the things that may be dragging me down or hopefully lifting me up.
Mhm.
So I want to teach and coach and align people with who they are as people, as human beings, not necessarily as employees or business people, because it always starts with the heart, as I like to say. And I think more than ever with the world and the chaos that's out there, we need to really double down on the authenticity and the blood of relationships, not necessarily the muscle.
Love it. So tell me about the audiences today. Are they asking you to basically bring their teams together? Because I know there's a lot of people talking about the people who are in person, the people who are still working virtually. Then you have this kind of divide in our country. I don't think companies are necessarily going political in their conversations, but I feel like I'm wondering if audiences and event clients are asking you to kind of bridge that gap more than usual.
There is a lot of division. There's a lot of chaos and uncertainty, the economy, supply chain issues, the war for talent. How do you retain and sustain the momentum of your teammates, right? Because there's a lot of folks who are trained, who are very capable individuals, but another opportunity comes along, and many folks fire their boss, not necessarily leave the company, right? And so a lot of it is about, once again, nurturing the human spirit and extracting as much juice from that human as possible. And you can't just do it by, once again, being a commander or a demander,
Right.
being old school for that matter. There has to be empathy and compassion and connection. I talk about pushing up the throttle, going to full power, being all in and committed. But to get to the hand, which is about performance, you have to go through the heart. And so, coming from a fighter pilot, combat decorated, all the missile missions that I've been on, the missiles that I've dodged, the leaders are responsible and truly critical to marinating the steak of the relationship and imbibing the culture with their DNA. And it starts one relationship, one handshake, one conversation at a time. So what I try to do is give them some tools on maintaining loyalty, on building that trust, the connection, and also, creating environments where people are okay with making mistakes and coming to each other for help, like I said. But also, you have partners and vendors and resellers and channels. Like, there's all these different people that aren't just part of the organization that are critical to getting the job done. So one of my signature keynotes is one team, one mission. That's a great theme. One team, one mission. I'm wearing this uniform, this flight suit, the patches, the flag, the name tag. This kind of creates a unity,
Yeah.
a spirit of collaboration and trust. Like, we're all flying the same jet. We're all in the same squadron. We're all wearing the same uniform. We're all human beings. And I speak all over the world as well. There's a lot of global companies that I work for, Siemens, Exxon. I've been over to Saudi Arabia, having an American fighter pilot speak in Saudi, right? That's kind of crazy. But, working with NATO and all these different partner nations, traveling all across Latin America, we realize, in particular in the military, and great leaders realize, there's not much that separates us when you go back to the DNA and the heart.
Yeah.
So, regardless of if you're working from home on a Zoom call or working globally across this very multinational, type of companies that we're dealing with, if we go back to the human, go back to the fundamentals, that's kind of what I try to share, and what clients are needing more than ever, because we're disconnected many times, and we need to find ways to build that authentic, transparent trust that is often commoditized and can ruin relationships, partners, and drive away revenue.
Yeah. Well, man, these themes, I realize here as I'm listening to you that I've heard some of these themes before, and there's a lot of people who try and talk about these things. And then I remember watching you on stage, and how the presenter, the person who's presenting to the audience, the person who's delivering this message to the audience, is more than half of the battle, and that the charisma and the way that the dynamics that the person speaks with is everything. And that's what's missing with a lot of speakers and with people who are the best of the best. There really is this ability to connect with the audience, and I say that here because we're in a conversation, we're just hanging out and talking like we always do. But on stage, you really have this on button that you switch. You switch it on, and man, it's absolutely, that's why you're a Hall of Famer. So I just wanted to say that, because hearing these messages from you really resonates to me, and I can say that with authority because I've seen you, and you really are incredibly talented. But I did want to ask you a question before we have to wrap it up at some point soon, about the missiles, because there's some speakers out there who talk about, there's a lot of people who've climbed to the top of Mount Everest. There's a lot of people who've been in the military. I don't know if there's a lot of people who've actually been in combat situations who I think are New York Times bestsellers and Hall of Fame speakers. You really have a lot of boxes that you check. And so I'm, as just an interested person and a friend, from guy to guy here, like, you dodged missiles. Tell me a little bit about that. And then you're claustrophobic and having panic attacks on top of that. how
I'm
this
afraid of
works.
heights, believe it or not. I had to jump off a 33 feet high diving board to graduate the academy and eventually go to pilot training. So I share that story. I share about my parents growing up. My dad and mom were blue collar. My dad used to say, be careful who you spend time with on the weekends. The early bird gets the worm. Don't take the easy way out, you know? Uh, my favorite quote in the world is, when you sip from the fountain, don't forget who dug the well.
Mm.
Right? The people who dug your well, the standards, the values, the core, the culture of your organization and your life, that truly is what can't be commoditized. So we need to really increase those standards and create this culture. So, you know, once again, I talk about the missiles and I'll share about that, but mine isn't about fighter pilot tactics where you
Right.
tell everybody that I'm a Top Gun and you're not, because I believe at the end of the day, we're all Top Guns. We just wear different uniforms.
Yeah.
And it's about having the courage to step out of those comfort zones, take some risks, fight for something greater than yourself, appreciate your teammates, be open to feedback, right? There's a concept here called check six. When I was in combat, strapped into a jet, you couldn't see your most vulnerable position behind you. 6 o'clock is on the clock is behind you. 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, you can see. But when you're in this tiny little cockpit, barely able to move, you don't know if you're leaking fuel or on fire. But if you have a
Wow.
wingman or a wingmam at your right 3 o'clock or left 9 o'clock, they can call out the threat and build your picture and give you
Love it.
feedback, right? So this is really the crux of all my content about, hey, I'm doing my job. I may not see the big picture, but you
Wow.
can see something that I may not see,
Yeah.
Chris. And that's why it's great about a bureau speaker relationship, to nurture that trust and everybody wins. So in combat, I had four surface to air missiles launched on me. You could see they look like a Roman candle from the 4th of July coming at you, these big fire plumes. I'm doing the funky chicken, trying to avoid them. And Pigpen, my wingman, there's a story behind the Pigpen call sign. He shoots a missile into that site because he was checking my six. He had my back. He was focused on supporting me, and he shot a missile into that radar site that was tracking on me. I dodged the missiles and lived another day. And so that mutual support, the fact that you may not be able to do it all, that you have a limited perspective,
Mm-hmm.
that's what allowed me to win. And it's allowing me to win in business. I've been doing this almost 20 years. I know that I have to prepare every speech more than I ever did before. The reason why I'm confident on stage is because I'm out there the night before, walking the halls, connecting at the cocktail party. I never drink before I speak. Actually, I can't say I never drink, because I'll have a sip of wine if the
The night
CEO asks
before.
me
The
to.
night before, though.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. And
Not
but you
before you
won't
go on
be.
stage.
Yeah,
That's an old
never.
drummer's trick when you go out there to play for the night, and it's at night, and it's in an atmosphere like that. But a little sip of whiskey is not a horrible thing for a drummer, but not a speaker.
Yeah, well, you have to maintain. You've got to be homeostatically and mentally in tune to the audience. So
Of
I
course.
prepare. I'm out there, jotting down names. And you read any of the testimonials that I'll send to you, they're saying you prepared, you knew our business from the inside out. I don't care if I'm a Hall of Fame speaker. The client doesn't care. All they want is value, and you better earn your wings. So when I'm up there, I connect because I'm prepared, and also I release myself from the outcome, and I love what I do. I want to help the folks.
Yeah.
People are in the dungeon. There are some folks that are potentially suicidal, wondering if they're in the right job, going through divorce, some depression. So
What do
my
you think
job is
about them when you go out there? I like that.
100%, man.
And
Is
you
to
have
keep it,
everybody go push up. Is
push
that's
it up.
something that you
Yeah,
have every single audience do, right?
yeah. It's a
And so
fun.
tell us a little bit about what that means, because I've seen it, and I've been there, and I love it, and I just want everybody watching to know how you get them there. And it's really not just okay, thanks, Waldo. No, it's like people are like, yeah. I mean, how do you get them there, and what's that all about?
So it's a secret handshake that we used to do in Korea, the 35th Fighter Squadron, Republic of South Korea, along the DMZ. We did a remote tour duty. So whenever we flew, whenever we hit the gym or did a briefing, we'd say push it up, and that was like
Yeah,
time to go to full power. And
sure.
push it up is what you say when you cross the FIBA, the forward edge of the battle area, and commit on the enemy. When you're committing, you see an enemy MiG on the nose, the enemy aircraft, you say, wingman, commit, push it up. you go to full power and you're all in. There's no turning back.
Wow.
So I had them do that as one unified team. And it is a little bit hokey, but the point
No,
is this. Here's the thing. Even though people kind of feel it's a little cheesy sometimes, it's
I
about
don't think so. That's what I'm saying. It could have been, but it isn't when you do
it's
it.
not, because as leaders, which every one of us are in the world, you have a choice to push it up or to pull it back. You have to sometimes do what you don't necessarily want to do.
Yeah.
And so you've got to push forward that throttle. You're leading the way. You're setting the tone for the team and for your squad, for your culture. So if you're not willing to push it up and make the hard decisions, have the tough conversations, prepare, build the trust, and decommoditize yourself, you can't nurture that with your team. So I try to get them to do that. They love it. And we call back to that because it's a constant reminder of your duty, your responsibility, and your passion of being a leader, regardless of your role, regardless of your position in that organization. So it's a fun way. More people remember push it up than anything else. It's a call to action. It's about taking the fight to the enemy and winning with honor, winning for your customers, your clients, and for your futures and dreams.
Absolutely. And
Passionate about this stuff.
I know, man. And it really, it gets me every time I talk to you. I think we feed off of each other a little bit. Like you said, we both have a similar style and passion for what we do.
Yeah.
But also, I'm so excited to have you on at this time because, man, that is a great thing for us to rally around is our country and each other and humanity, because it's a tough time. The world has been through a pandemic and the world is watching a little war going on. That's not so little, and that's really quite tragic what's happening. And I think a lot of people are really stressed out. So when we can look at each other and say, hey, we're in this together and we're Americans and it's 4th of July and hopefully this pandemic is winding down and hopefully this Russia thing gets resolved soon, our future's not that bleak. And we really need to stop worrying about the negative news cycles we see every single day in our social media that's pulling us down. We really need to look at each other into the eyes and say, hey, I got you. And hey, I'm here for you. And hey, we're in this together. And hey, let's kick some, you know what, in whatever we're doing together, and I think that's why you're the perfect guy to talk to right now, but also such a great speaker to, have out there. So everybody's got you speaking in the next month or 2 or 3 or 4. I know it's just gonna be tears. It's gonna be joyful, and everybody's gonna be stoked, as they always are. But right now, I think is an especially fun time for you and a great time for you, especially also with the movie that's like doing billions. So it's incredible, and I'm so happy for you that all your life's work and everything. This might be the best moment of your career.
Yeah. I put on here, leaders lift. We need to be lifters, not draggers. And that's what I loved about the movie. That's what being a Top Gun is about showing up, giving your best help every single day, nurturing relationships, working on that inner wingman, that the person staring back at you every day, nurturing and building love in yourself and confidence and courage and resilience in yourself so that you can be that partner to others. And when you do that, that's what truly brings joy to life, when we can authentically know that we're helping others.
Yeah.
We're getting some rewards too, man. Everybody wants to go out and kick some butt and take some names, right? We should be ambitious. We should be competitive and want the best.
Yeah.
But the best sometimes may not have to do with money or revenue or even winning. It sometimes means losing the battle to win the long war.
Sure.
Understanding that maybe having compassion and connection and empathy for somebody on your team and nurturing and inconveniencing yourself because you value the relationship more than the sale or whatever it is, that truly creates environments of courage and love in this world. And that's truly what I'm an ambassador for. I want to be an ambassador of hope, a comrade of courage, a connector of hearts. That's what I believe in. That's who I am, as Rob Waldman, Waldo, not the fighter pilot, not the speaker, but the person. And that's what I try to bring every day. And I think as long as I do that, then I'll show up with joy and be thankful for every opportunity I have on stage and off.
Yeah. a lot of people do forget that when you reach out and you're helping somebody else, it makes you feel so much better as well. When something bad has happened to you, I know there's a story about a guy that the plane had just gone down and everybody in the plane had died, and his own child or wife had died, but there were other people in that room who were bawling, finding out about this news, and he went and talked to these other people, and that's what made him feel better, was helping the others who were going through the same thing he was. And that's what you're talking about, is just this empathy. I love that you keep bringing that up, and definitely you are not only empathetic and helpful to others, I know that, but also you really are so uplifting and so encouraging, and you really just kind of light that fire, but not in a cheesy way, in a way that everybody really likes and it can relate to and appreciate. So you've done it again here for me. Every time I talk to you, it's a pleasure, and I'm so thankful to you for coming on today, my friend.
I appreciate it sincerely, Chris. You're a wing giver, as I like to say. You've got a great reputation. There's a lot of folks that we know in the industry. Our paths have crossed before this call as well. I want to leave you with this. A lot of folks who say, that who meet me, they always say thank you for your service, and I appreciate it a ton, especially as we approach the 4th of July. But here's my advice to any American, any person for that matter. If you truly want to say thank you to the Americans who fight for our country, then simply be the type of American worth fighting for.
Oof.
That's how you can make a guy like me and all our troops proud to serve, and make every American, regardless of their skin color, sexuality, background, success, proud to wear the stars and stripes on their head and on their arms, but most importantly in their heart. And I appreciate getting to know you better, Chris, and I look forward to flying with you in the future.
Absolutely, my friend. Very much looking forward to it. Have a good one, and thanks again.
You got it. Push it up.
All right.